Hello, everyone, and welcome in. Happy Thursday evening. My name is Bryce Koon, and this is the Crowded Booth as we recap everything that happened in Atlanta this week. SEC kickoff, SEC Media Days, whatever you really want to call it, signals the start of college football season. Some more media conferences coming up here in the next couple of weeks, but man, we are just about a month and a half away from kickoff. Myself, Will Manis, and we'll see if Ralph Leary makes it in. We'll have you here on the Crowded Booth here in just about 30 seconds or so.
Pile in here and make yourself feel at home. The Crowded Booth is coming on. The Crowded Booth with Bryce Koon.
All right, we welcome you in here. My name is Bryce Koon alongside Will Manis. Ralph should be potentially, maybe we'll see, joining us shortly. But Will, like I said in the open, SEC kickoff, SEC Media Days has concluded, is over with. Monday through Thursday, lots of information being thrown out there, lots of potential misinformation being thrown out there. But I think the biggest thing we can say is it does signal just about the beginning of college football in terms of talking season, in terms of what we have going on with not just, I would say, like the hype. We've all seen the hypes in spring, but this is like when we're starting to see, like, okay, what are coaches saying about the season? You get a little soundbite stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, it's sorry. Ralph was messing with his headset in the background. It almost signals the end of talking season, right? I mean, we still got 6 weeks until we kick things off, but it's like the big wrap up, kind of the grand finale of talking season. Some takes were made this week. It was a fun week on Twitter for sure.
Fun week on Twitter. People speaking out of turn on topics they may not know the most about. The group chat was firing off this week, that's for sure. I was in Atlanta on Monday. Obviously, Monday was kind of it was a fun day in terms of obviously LSU went first with Brian Kelly. You had Shane Beamer and company. I wasn't there for the full afternoon portion. I think didn't Tennessee go on Monday as well? Josh Heupel.
They did.
Okay, either Monday or Tuesday. I don't remember.
Which
it was earlier in the week.
It was interesting. I heard nothing come out of Tennessee's day, especially with the turbulent spring that they had. It was kind of crazy to not hear anything.
Yeah, it's that's because he won the press conference in the spring. That's why. Josh Heupel won the press conference in the spring, and he's letting us talk about more things like a 30-team playoff, like Jackson Arnold might be the worst quarterback in college football, and Hugh Freeze is a moron for not recruiting him.
Or, like some teams want to start 1-0.
And you know what? We're going to kick it off right here to begin with. Ralph says, "I'm seriously going to break my monitor, I swear." Well, some of the biggest, just I don't even know if we're going to call it news. I think what we're really going to call it here is just rumor. How do you feel about this? The potential to
First of all,
yeah, you need help,
Ralph. This is a good source.
I wouldn't take that personally.
They can help you.
I wouldn't take that. Will, let's start off. A Nick Saban return. Now, this was Greg McElroy, former Alabama quarterback, co-host of the McElroy and Cube show, does a lot of obviously ESPN college football stuff, comes out with just some interesting takes. First off, former Alabama quarterbacks have been on a heater recently about takes on their selective platforms. If you missed the AJ McCarron take, what was it, about a week and a half ago now or something like that?
Lord have mercy.
Just something. Your thoughts on a Nick Saban return? Because obviously where I am down here, there's a lot of intrigue in terms of, like, you saw the message boards get fired up. Like, well, we'll fire Brian Kelly down here in Baton Rouge, and what'll happen is we'll just bring Nick back down here. I'll be honest with you. I think they'd push for it. The phone call would be made. But just what do you think about this? We're not going to spend a lot of time on this, but Nick Saban returning to college football?
Well, of course, the phone call is going to be made. I mean, it's the greatest coach of all time. Make him tell you no. We saw North Carolina do that, and they surprisingly got a yes. So, of course, you're going to make the phone call. If you're probably anybody but Auburn, I think, would make the phone call. I think there's too many people around Auburn that wouldn't be on that train, big dog. But no, I just don't see it. I mean, even Eli Drinkwitz today made a joke about it. He says that all these coaches in the SEC, they still talk to him, and obviously with his work for ESPN, he's going to communicate with these other coaches. But I mean, coaching's a fraternity; they all know each other, and certainly don't see it. I think the best quote about it all was Kirby Smart's. He was asked about it, and Kirby said, "Well, yeah, I called him and offered him Muschamp's job, but he was overqualified." So I mean, just a great soundbite. I mean, Kirby just talk a little bit about Jordan. He had a really good week. I think he was really entertaining. Which I think this week should be. It shouldn't be so much about being over technical and trying to get scoops or anything. It's just it's a fun week where these coaches, they come and they promote their teams and promote their players, especially the ones that they bring. And I think this whole Nick Saban story was just a bad distraction, I think, hanging over SEC media days.
No, I'm with you. His daughter posted on social media today. I think it was on Instagram that she put. She said, "Apparently, some of y'all feel trolled by my last story of Nick's walkout. He's not coming back to coaching. Hate to break it to you. You had your time." So she had on her Instagram story, Kristen Saban. You can go find it on her Instagram. So she posts like, I know, Will, you don't and would not enjoy to see this probably, but regardless, take away the color glasses of whatever fan base you are from. Nick Saban's walkout, I think it's to Thunderstruck inside Bryant-Denny. Pretty cool. Like, it's pretty cool. He walks out, posing figure. Well, she put that out there. I think like on her Instagram story, and then people were like, "Oh, that means he's coming back," and she was just so. No, I'm with you. This is more of kind of like it's also been on the news cycle for so long. It came back in today with that post, but yeah, Kristen Saban, daughter of Nick Saban, and also too, I think he's enjoying, by the way, College Game Day, and I like him on College Game Day, to be honest with you.
He seems like it, and he's going to be the centerpiece now for sure with Lee Corso retiring.
Mm-hmm.
So it's all working out for ESPN.
Yeah,
I think
he's fine. A couple other topics of conversation that I think are really important, and so let's kind of go here with this. As Ralph's absolutely losing his mind,
there is a crash out happening in the
full-on crash out that you probably experienced if you watched the channel last night with Will playing EA in the second game, but we don't have to get into
I think it's best if we don't get into that.
Just go ahead and play the fifth on that one. No, in all seriousness, let's kind of start, Will, with a team that I have ties to down here in Baton Rouge, led off SEC Media Days, and it's really kind of Brian Kelly's mantra of 1-0. I tweeted something out. I think you followed it with kind of your take, so I'll let you kind of go with it here. Look, they've put Clemson paw prints on the weight bags. They have put an emphasis on game number 1 that they have to go and win this one. Will, I don't think it's displaced aggression. I think that understanding that if this team, which we've talked so much this offseason, has poured a lot of financial resources into trying to be really, really good, and knowing they've never won a season opener under Kelly and haven't won one in 5 years in general, knowing all of these things, I don't have a problem with the emphasis they're placing on game 1, but there was some, I guess, pushback, we could say, from some of these people saying, fans of other teams, even LSU fans, is Brian Kelly placing too much of an emphasis on Clemson? I know you had some thoughts on it, but kind of, what did you think about Kelly's maybe, I don't want to say arrogance, but the confidence and just this detailed approach into week 1?
Yeah, well, I mean, even more so for the reasons that you just said, that he's yet to win a season opener. This is an LSU team that is really, really good on paper. We expect them to be competing for an SEC title, playoff appearance, national title. If they can go into Clemson and win in week 1, they are in the driver's seat for a top 4 seed in the playoff. Now, they still have to get it done in SEC play, but you go on the road week 1 of college football into Clemson, Death Valley. He thinks LSU's a real Death Valley. Whatever, all the talking points you want to make. That's one of the hardest places to play in the country. If you can go in there and beat those guys, and Dabo Swinney, he feels really, really good about his team. He went in the transfer portal for the first time. It's going to be a really fun game, I think, no matter who wins it. But if you go there and win that, you are in the driver's seat for top 4 in the playoffs. You're top 4 for that bye. And you compete. It's a close loss. You're still in the playoff. That's going to be a good loss on your resume come the end of the year. So, yeah, even if you don't go up there and win, you got to at least compete and be competitive. It will be a good loss at the end of the year. And also all this talk about 1-0, 1-0. I'm jaded of 1-0 because that was Brian Harson's mantra in his year and a half at Auburn. And so I'm kind of jaded by 1-0. That was a reason for my sarcastic tweet back to you. I'm like, man, this is a new mindset. I've never heard there's hardly any coaches that say they want to win the first game of the year. I mean, just to compare,
I didn't even pick up on that, by the way.
Do what?
I said I didn't even pick up on that, by the way. That's
Oh,
amazing.
yeah,
I didn't even know that.
totally
That's great.
sarcastic. But just to compare, I mean, go ahead and timestamp it 11 minutes, 10 seconds. Compared to Hugh Freeze, what he's talked about Auburn's opener against Baylor. He said, about a month ago, someone was he was asked about it, and he goes, "Yeah, I may regret saying that I want to play a power opponent in week 1." So that's kind of the opposite ends of the spectrum.
Oh, can you hear us? Can you talk?
Me?
We can hear you.
Is it bad?
No, sounds fine.
Say something.
Hello.
You don't have to lean into it. Just talk louder.
Sorry, am I here? Can y'all hear me? Are we good?
Yes.
Jesus.
The microphone seems to have worked. Okay. I'll give some thoughts, and then Ralph, I'll go to you on this one. So welcome Ralph into the show. 12:03 mark.
Thank you.
Brian Kelly's want to know, will you hit on this in terms of there's a sense of urgency. And here was Kelly's quote on Monday from the podium. He goes, "We've also been 0-3 in openers at LSU under my watch. We need to do some things differently this year. That is to embrace this opener, embracing it in a manner that this is a big game. It's a tangible goal for our football team to want to be 1-0. Then let's not warm up into the season." I will say this about, my first year covering LSU 2 seasons ago. Shout out #not-an-ad TJ Ribs here in Baton Rouge, is where Brian Kelly does his, coaches show. Every coach has one. And Kelly talked about, the game leading up as they were getting ready to go to Orlando for Camping World Stadium against Florida State. Now, we all know how that game turned out, drubbing the Noles, go undefeated, and all this kind of stuff. That being said, Kelly's mantra heading into that game was, we're going to beat something along the lines of what Gus Malzahn said after they beat Georgia and Kirby Smart in 2017. We're going to beat the dog crap out of them. He essentially said, not verbatim, something along the lines of that. He took confidence into that game, fresh off of last year where LSU collapsed and missed a PAT that would have tied the game in New Orleans, and maybe they would have won the game. That being said, I don't mind Brian Kelly's confidence heading into this. I think that it's obvious, first off, that you want to go 1-0. That's not breaking news for people who want to overreact. What I think is important to note is that they're embracing this differently. In the past 2 fall camps, we have asked the question to Kelly, what do you do different? And so I think that's one of the questions that's going to be intriguing to ask this fall and hear answered is, okay, you've talked about this. What does that look like differently on a day-to-day basis? Obviously, we know it starts in the spring, the summer, instilling the mindset. They go and get a bunch of veteran guys in the portal, like, Pyburn and Peyton, 2 guys that have played a lot of college football, and a host of others. But what does that do differently? Because, like you said, Will, it's really just a soundbite. Everyone wants to start 1-0. You like the confidence, but what is actually tangibly different about you doing that rather than just standing at a podium and saying, hey, we're embracing it? Well, you would want to embrace every season opener. That's not breaking news. So I don't have a problem with it. It's more of the follow-up questions. I'd like, okay, so what are the differences? What makes this prep different than last year against USC in Vegas, in the past 2 years against Florida State, and both in Orlando and in New Orleans? So, Ralph, your thoughts? Is this, for the LSU fans that are overreacting, saying that he's going too far deep into this? I would beg the question, and I'll ask you here, it's not that you're going to lose a playoff spot if you don't win this one. But like Will said, God, you could position yourself as the early. I mean, if they win this game, they're going to be a top 5, top 4 team in the country. And they're probably going to be, the betting odds are going to shoot them up there in the top 3 or top 4 to win the whole thing. Not that that means anything in the month of September, but it's obviously important.
Well, if you win on the road and then knock off Death Valley, it's a pretty solid win for this program. Obviously, with Clemson having the team they had this year and their success last year, and You know, the people they brought in this year and the guys that kept on the roster. You know, there's just such a good team, and you know, they're preseason probably favorites to win the ACC. They're a preseason favorite to be in the final, you know, in the championship game, at least in semifinals this year. And if you're Brian Kelly, you know, having not won an opener in his career, now opener is saying, you know, it's 0-3. You've played some pretty good teams, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I mean, 2 Florida State teams that were really good, and a USC team that started off really good last year. That kind of goes under the radar, and how good they actually were at the beginning of the season. But you learned a lot about yourself from Week 1 games, and obviously LSU had some games where they, you know, they went up and down a lot. You know, toward the end of the season last year against Florida was a rough one. But looking at going into this season, you know, Nussmeier's last year, Caden Durham fully healthy again. They brought in some great transfers, like you said, some veterans on the defense. This has to be a game you win if you want to have a nice kind of, you know, not an easier ride, but it's a simpler ride going into the rest of your season. Obviously, you still got some games you have to win, but you can afford to lose 1 or 2. You know, especially those tough ones with like at Alabama, and you go to you got who else go on the road to?
You go to Ole Miss, you host Florida, you host South Carolina, and you host A&M, and you go to Oklahoma.
So yeah,
and out of respect for Will, you go to Nashville and you play Vanderbilt.
But you go to Alabama and then you go to Ole Miss this year. You lose one of those games, you're still sitting pretty high on that ranking with a win at Clemson at the beginning of the year. So this is obviously it's a marquee matchup because it's one of the best games of the season to start the season off. Brian Kelly wants to just want to know, because I think he has that chip, that little thing on his shoulder in his back of his head that I have not won an opener yet here. You know, and this would be his 4th top 10 opponent he's faced in Week 1.
Yeah.
I mean, give it to me. They're scheduling some of the hardest opponents, but eventually you have to win one of these games.
I'm with you. It's important to win game number 1. Brian Kelly talked about going 1-0, and it kind of leads us into the next topic of conversation. We'll go with this one real quick because I thought it was interesting. Kirby Smart, Will, you talked about, had an interesting, a positive week in terms of talking about it. And he mentioned, and tailored it towards your Auburn Tigers when asked the question, he said, you want me to pump up Jordan Hare? Kind of talk about this comment, what you learned and what you thought.
Well, I had a thought to make this one of my takeaways, just being like, you know, local journalists are asking coaches that are not local to them the same questions all year, because Steve Sarkisian was asked this. You know, multiple coaches are asked this every year, and the answers are still the same. It's especially when Auburn is good, or at least even competitive. It's one of the hardest places to play in the country. But you know, Kirby Smart was like irritated and like offended that he was asked this question, and probably because the reporter didn't confidently ask the question, which, you know, we've seen him kind of snap at reporters, especially when they're kind of waffling with their questions and they're like scared to ask it. But you know, more vindication for me for my rankings when we ranked SEC environments. It's number 1 for me, and this is a big reason. When you've got Kirby Smart and Steve Sarkisian saying it's the hardest place to play.
Yeah. I mean, I don't have too much on that. I've sat there and listened to some just wild questions being asked on Monday and burying my head in my hands. I don't have much to say after that. Ralph, any thoughts, or you to move on to the next one?
I mean, I guess it's okay to ask it once a year, you know, to ask the questions, but let's just be honest here. They're not going to give you the answer you want to hear. They're going to give you a sarcastic response, and it's normally going to be a great soundbite on Twitter later on that week.
Yeah.
I mean, and if that team, you know, if Georgia goes to Auburn and get beat, it's going to be a great soundbite for the week after that game. You know, it's what it's used for. But like I agree, it's a dumb question, because like Nick Saban was never asked that question, because you get more respect for Nick Saban than that.
Well, Nick Saban also really put people into their place. There was one reporter who will go completely unnamed.
You also didn't have to ask Nick Saban because he never beat a 9-win Auburn team.
Well, there you go.
He beat plenty of other ones, though.
Hey, who?
Let's say with everybody else, Will. So
Look,
don't feel bad.
Look, that's not. It's not an accomplishment to beat up on a bad team.
Hey,
Well, there's an unnamed reporter. He had a name, but I'm not going to say his name. There was an unnamed reporter that worked on the Texas A&M beat, and you can go through the transcripts. By the way, and this is public. Like, you don't have to have a. Well, I think you do have to have like a login for, but whatever.
no,
Anyway,
SEC,
you can go,
SEC Network puts it out publicly.
they put all the transcripts out there.
Mhm.
So for the players, and he asked every single LSU player about transfer tight end Donovan Green that played at Texas A&M, and like the guys were nice about it. Like Whit Weeks was like, yeah, he's been a great leader. Like, Garrett Nussmeier talked about him, but it's like you're just wasting people's time. And then there was another great question. So I was standing in front of this is, by the way, this topic is just dumb question, the dumbest questions at SEC Media Days. We should have just made a montage of them and just posted that as a video. Chris Hilton, LSU wide receiver, who struggled to stay healthy, has talked a lot this offseason about how his faith has helped him just in terms of getting back to the point. And so it's a point to play and all this kind of stuff. So when they do these breakout sessions, and not even really breakout sessions, for the SEC wise, you have the big room where everything was in, and the big podium, and then they have 4 smaller podiums where they'll send players to talk to people. And so every single player was there. So Garrett Nussmeier's was crazy packed, but I went over to Chris Hilton just to get some, stuff about the wide receivers in terms of their speed and everything. And so I've interviewed Chris before multiple times. Like I'm not going to act like a said reporter in the Atlanta market that acts like this. He knows who I am, like that type of thing. But
So you're best friends, is what you're saying.
Yeah, I'm not saying best friends with him. Yeah, I mean, sometimes I do go in the office building and discuss recruiting with them. That's what it is. But in terms of just what they have going on. But
You
anyway,
definitely did that with Joe Sloan.
there you go. Chris Hilton is standing there. He recognizes me, another local radio guy, and then it's just a bunch of rando reporters. So the other radio guy does a great job here in Baton Rouge. He asks a couple questions, and then I ask a couple questions, and he's comfortable with it. Like, we've asked him questions before. So I finish up my question, and this guy behind me, he goes, I guess he was obviously a South Carolina reporter. He goes, so Chris, last year there was a lot of officiating errors in the y'all's win over South Carolina that allowed y'all to really kind of come back and take over that game and everything. And Chris just looks at him, and Chris is a super nice guy. Like, he goes, well, I wasn't playing, so all I know is that we won the game. That's all he says. Well, then the same reporter goes over to Garrett Nussmeier, and he's like, well, I also he asked the same question. He goes, well, I also remember we had the ball at the 50-yard line down, and we got to stop, and we had to go score and win the game, and the LSU Tigers ended up winning that game. So it's just, don't be a moron when you go to SEC Media Days.
I just gotta say, I'm looking at the transcript. I see the question about Donovan Green. I don't see the other one, Bryce. But I see the one that says, "You're from Zachary. Was LSU always a dream? Are you living the dream right
30
now?
minutes up the road there, big dog. Jesus.
Are you living your dream right now?"
What if he just said no? Anyways, dumb question.
We talk about dumb questions at SEC Media Days. I wish we could have gotten to ACC Media Days, because
it's next week, baby.
There's some characters that cover the ACC, that's for sure.
Shout out my boy Rod McKenzie. What a character. He is hanging out with some characters up there in Charlotte.
That's our guy.
He's going on a show, supposedly.
Big time show up there in the Queen City. They're based out of Maryland. Apologies. So all
Big Ten country, Maryland.
Oh boy.
Yes.
So talking about all of this in general, obviously SEC Media Days is a good time, and it's also just a wild thing. Okay, let's talk a little bit more about this.
Joe, we are not talking about him.
No, that's yeah.
We are not talking about him.
Ralph, this was a comment, I think the one that you had brought up, and it was, I guess, from Billy Napier. I did not see this, so
it was not at Media Days. It is a tweet, but it was tweeted because of the network. SEC Network tweeted out the schedule, the toughest schedule in FBS.
That's right.
And Florida's is number 1, and his only tweet reply to that was spot the ball. Which, I mean, coming from a team that squeaked 8 wins last year, got 5 the year before, I love it. I just want to say I love it, Billy Napier. This is the kind of coach. This is what you want to see if you're a Florida player right now. Your coaches, you have the hardest schedule going into 2025
Mm-hmm.
because you open up with 2 pretty simple wins with Long Island and USF. You go down to LSU, you go to Miami, you host Texas, and you go to A&M. You get you get 2 bye weeks in between those, and you get Mississippi State, and you get Georgia neutral site, and then you go to Kentucky, to Ole Miss, host Tennessee, and host Florida State. After that second week at South Florida game, there is no break really, in my opinion. You are playing, some of the best opponents in college football week in, week out.
Yeah.
And I know that's the SEC, but this is a tough one. You're adding Miami in there also, and you're hosting. You go like Texas and Georgia, and Tennessee. It's a tough schedule for them. And I love what Billy Napier said. Some of the questions he got were kind of out there this week. Asking questions about Lagway, is he still throwing the ball really well? Like, I mean, what do you want to say? He throws it bad. I mean, like, it was a weird day for him because the questions he received. He received questions about his brother Matt.
Yeah.
LaGrange, Georgia. There. But yeah, I thought I saw this out of him. I really enjoyed watching his interview. I got really excited to see that tweet because that shows me that Florida's. I'm not going to say the word behind that, but Florida's going to come up this year.
It's an important year for sure. I mean, I think, and we talked about this when we previewed the kind of the seasons for each of these teams. I mean, it's a lot of projection. They've probably got one of the best, if not the best, center in college football, and Jake Slaughter. I think they're in a situation where they feel good about themselves, like you said, Ralph, the way they ended the season. And now, in terms of what they are going forward, hey, a lot of people believe that, progress is linear, and you would say that DJ Lagway is going to take that next step. If he does, I've said here multiple times, I think that he is probably the most talented quarterback in the country in terms of like the traits and the God-given talent. Whether that comes together in terms of in between the ears and obviously on the field is something that's really kind of big to see there too. Spot the ball. Florida is ready to play. Will, any thoughts on that, or you keep it rolling?
I got a couple, just kind of about Florida and Billy Napier in general. But first, kind of your comment on progress being linear. Is that what you meant? Like, you can only measure progress if it's in a straight line?
I think that a lot of people, and maybe I said it wrong, I think that people just think that progress is always linear. Like, it always just continues to go like this. You don't ever, and maybe I said that wrong. You can regress or stay the same. People just assume, well, this kid's super talented. We're just going
Right.
to, everything's always going to get better.
Right. Yeah. And I think I don't know if you articulated that, because the way I caught it was like, no, progress is not always linear. It's definitely not.
It's not. It's not, no.
Especially when you're talking about 18 to 22-year-olds, like is what we do. And then just Billy Napier. I mean, he was. I've always liked Billy Napier. I think the question was always going to be, I mean, that's a big jump going from Louisiana to University of Florida. He was a finalist for the Auburn job. That would have been a big jump. Going to the state of Alabama, having to recruit against Alabama. But, mentality, it starts at the top, starts with the head coach. I've always thought he had the right mentality. It was just a matter of, can he get it done? I mean, he's up until this job, he was kind of, for a lot of his career, was a big fish in a small pond. And then Florida being a big step for him. But, hats off to Florida for sticking with it. And, it looks like it'll pay off this year. But, like I said, we're talking about 18 to 22-year-olds. Anything can happen.
Certainly can. It certainly can. I'm there with you. This is... Wow, Ralph just put this in here. This was about Jake Slaughter. Someone asked, I mean, this is a compliment. Do you often get struck for being older than what you are? You don't seem like the average 22-year-old. No, sir, I do get the you ought to be 30 type. I mean, what type of questions are we asking? Just, oh my God.
I'll tell you one thing, though, what I've read is every Florida player and coach got the question about Jack Pyburn.
Of course.
Yeah, I did see that. I think some LSU media asked about him too.
It's just fine. I think you should just ask Billy Napier about it, because players are probably not going to be very honest about it. They'll probably be nice about it, but they're not going to be very honest.
Well, when you have fake numbers being thrown around that he was asking for in the portal too, I mean, it's just absolutely ridiculous too.
When you
yeah.
first said his name, Bryce Jake Slaughter, my first thought was, man, that's a name I hadn't heard in a long time. Had no idea that Florida center was Jake Slaughter, because early 2000s Auburn had a fullback named Jake Slaughter. Big dude, just a road grader fullback. What?
I said Auburn's always on your mind, Will. You're
It
always
is.
just thinking of
It
players.
is.
No, Slaughter's really, really good. Like he actually might be the best center in college football this year. So we're going to take a quick break. When we do come back, we're going to talk a couple things. Freeze and Auburn setting expectations. Will's going to talk about that. That's important. And the 30-team playoff. What was Elia talking about? Did he find some of the good kush in Atlanta? Did he make his way over to Magic City and stay too long? What in the world was he talking about? We'll be talking about that when we do indeed come back. Hey, we got a new sponsor. Want to let you check them out. All natural bug spray that really, really works, and that's no BS. It's all natural BS. The official bug spray partner here of the Crowded Booth. Look, whether you're playing golf, you're obviously getting in some, the good time, the warm weather. It's going to get a little bit chillier, but the bugs are still around. And we know that whether you're in Louisiana, Georgia, or anywhere in between. Not Connecticut, because nobody likes that place. But what I can tell you is that this is the bug spray that you're going to want to be a part of. You're going to want to get today. And it's a great opportunity to get it at a discounted price. You can use code TCB15 for 15% off your order today. Now, what is All Natural BS? It was officially founded in February 2020 with a simple mission to provide effective, chemical-free solutions for your home and garden. So pretty much so you can enjoy the outdoors without being bothered by those annoying insects. Listen, fantastic product. We love it. I've already gotten some. It's safe to use around my 1-year-old. You can use it for golf, fishing, yard work, and it's made from all natural essential oils that make the product ideal for anyone, even if you have some skin sensitivity. Proven to work against most flying insects, mosquitoes, gnats, sandflies, and deer flies as well. So make sure you check out our friends over at allnaturalbs.com. Okay, so talking a little bit more. I said gnats.
Does it really work? Because I hate gnats.
Hearing
that little buzz in my ear is the worst.
I will tell you, and I'm not, look, if we put an ad on this show, we will utilize the product. Ralph unfortunately did not get his Sydney Sweeney soap, but it is okay. What I will say is
that's tough.
Bugs are terrible here in South Louisiana. I back up right to the end of a bayou, and it kind of comes out into a lake. It's really bad. It's really, really bad.
Did you forget how bad they are in South Georgia?
Mosquitoes. Yes. It works. I'm not joking. We were outside around July 4th. We utilized some of it. Fantastic product. I enjoyed it. I'm glad we were able to use it. No BS. There you go. Get you some.
Not me, by the way. That's not me.
That's not you. Who is that?
What?
That's not me.
Who made a burner YouTube account?
Definitely Gavin.
Great question.
Gavin. Okay, here we go. Let's talk a little bit about what we have going on in terms of SEC Media Days. We just mentioned this. Will Freeze and Auburn setting expectations. A couple things I want to get out of the way here, and then I'm going to let you take the runway. Buddy, I'm just the guy at the end just taking you down to the runway, and I'm going to let you take
to the right. To the right.
There's a lot of things that you can be critical about Hugh Freeze and during his tenure at Auburn, but even before. And I think that's all well-warranted criticism. And even to a certain extent, I think people inside that building would say, you know what? You can be critical of that. Some of the things that came out of this week were absolutely ridiculous in terms of the criticism of Hugh Freeze in Auburn. So that's all I want to say. Ralph, you're no longer an Auburn fan, so you don't get a say in this. We're letting Will take the driver's seat in this. By the way, Troy, terrible team to utilize on EA College Bowl 26. Lost to Wyoming today. But Will, take it away. Freeze and Auburn setting expectations after just some interesting stuff. So, yeah, let's see. What you got?
Yeah, well, I kind of feel like we have a lot to get to with Auburn if we want to get into that, because certainly making the headlines at Media Days. But setting expectations, I mean, this is a new one. I mean, this is the first time in 3 years that I've actually heard Hugh Freeze set expectations and not try to lower. I mean, all he's done is lower expectations up until this week. So this was new for me to hear. This was refreshing. It's something different. And it's exciting, but it also, makes me a little bit nervous because to me it means he's feeling the pressure, right? Like he knows there's no excuse now. I can't come in here and say that, well, we're still trying to build this roster. No, that's gone, especially after you go 5-7 last year. You take a step back. We did just say that progress is not always linear. It's definitely not linear. But there was a lot of things in 2024 that were worse than 2023 for Auburn. And then just a month ago, I think this is kind of a result of reactions to what he said a month ago when he said that he's not a fool and that he knows that Auburn has to make a bowl game, which the general consensus, which made me feel better, is kind of, maybe more of a, I expect more, of course. One of those fans that expects more, but kind of the general thought was that's a preposterous statement. Auburn just making a bowl game, especially after a season where you miss a bowl game, that's not good enough. Excuse me. But it was nice to hear. Now, saying that Auburn's gonna, be in the playoff hunt could be a stretch. I mean, we talked about how important week 1 is for LSU. If Auburn wants to be in the playoff conversation, you have to go win at Baylor week 1. You have to. A loss to Baylor, probably kind of derails your season because you go on the road to Oklahoma, you go on the road to Texas A&M, you get Georgia and Alabama at home, but we know how good they are. And then, the blue chip ratios came out today. Auburn with its highest ever blue chip ratio since the percentage kind of was started to be published. But Auburn is still a ways away from Georgia and Alabama, their two biggest rivals. So, nice to hear. Like I say, certainly hope it's the case, but I am going to be hesitant to say that Auburn will be in the playoff discussion. Got to win week 1. If you don't win week 1 at Baylor, it's going to be a long uphill journey the rest of the way just to get back in that conversation.
I don't have a problem, and you mentioned this, I think, at the very onset of the show, Will. What are media days, and what do you expect out of them? You expect a parading around of players to pump up fans and pump up media for the start of the season. There are some outlandish things being said, but I will say this, for the Auburn fans that felt like saying, we're positioning ourselves for a playoff spot or whatever the exact quote was, for the Auburn fans saying, well, that's a little too much. What would you rather have to say? Because you can't have it both ways. You can't have it, we just want to be a bowl. We got to make sure we're in a bowl. I want my coach having goals and setting goals and saying, hey, this is where we need to be. This is what we are positioning ourselves for. And you've said it multiple times on this show, in our text groups and stuff like that, about the standard, in your opinion, has been lowered while Freeze has been there in terms of the public speaking sphere and what he said. This might be, and maybe you can correct me, one of the first times in his tenure where he said, no, this is we need to go back to meeting the standard and raising that bar. I can only speak from his first media days when I asked him a question in the big room, and one of the things he talked about was, our roster is nowhere near the way it needs to be. Maybe that was right. Do you feel like this is the first time he has maybe gotten back to where you feel like the expectations and a large portion of this fan base wants the expectations to be?
Yes, no doubt about it. I mean, it's like the first time he's looked at the roster and had, a lot of positives. The first 2 years, it was a lot of negatives, and rightfully so, especially going into that first season. That was true. I mean, the first year was like, just do the best you can because this situation is impossible. And he did well. Went 6-6, went to a bowl game. I think he kind of defied a lot of expectations when you consider how far behind Auburn was. But to take a step back last year is really concerning, right? To go 5-7 and not even be bowl eligible with a better roster, albeit a ton of freshmen, a lot of growing pains, but it didn't feel like the players and the talent was the issue. That was the big concern. But, and I just said about Billy Napier, it starts at the top. The mentality comes from the head coach. He sets the bar, sets the pace. This is the first time that he's done that, I think, and really striving to be like, you know what, we got to win games. And maybe he's just doing it, maybe it could be selfish reasons because he's feeling the pressure and knows if he doesn't get it done this year, he could be walking out the door. Although he does have a large buyout, and I just don't see John Cohen signing off, writing that big check. Because Auburn's not wanting to promise to write big checks right now, as we've heard many times. We'll see about August 1st. But this is, I think, the first time in his tenure that he's been like, nope, this is the goal. We're working toward it, rather than just being like, well, we're not that good, but we're going to try and we'll see what happens.
It's fair. And I think that's, as a fan, regardless of who you're a fan of, that's what you want to hear. Now, if you fall short of it, you move on to the next coach. But that's the messaging you want to hear. And maybe to a certain extent, it's also for the players back in that locker room to know, like, hey, I'm putting this out here, that this is what we expect out of you. I know Gavin talks about this a lot, but that was that halftime speech or whatever, the pregame speech where he said, like, lock the gates or whatever when he was at Ole Miss.
Yep.
At Ole Miss, like, that's kind of, I don't want to say vintage, but that's kind of getting back to that mentality of,
where has that Hugh Freeze been? Where's that guy been? I don't think anybody has seen him since he was at Ole Miss.
Some diabolical comments by Devin.
Yeah,
that's wild. No, I'm with you there. Freeze Auburn setting expectations. It's a good thing. It's what you want to see. Fellas, I think the next thing with Auburn and setting the expectations, let's just kind of take it here, is the Jackson Arnold thing, right? Like, so, I mean, we're not calling people out. When you put stuff in a public sphere, you invite people to talk about it, right? So obviously, and we've had him on the show a long time ago. Will got berated by him. Brooks Austin came on the show and talked about.
I mean, God forbid you have an opinion different.
But in all the general sense of everything, Brooks Austin kind of puts out there that Hugh Freeze was asked about Jackson Arnold when he was in the high school ranks. And then Hugh Freeze was at Liberty. The only two schools, now I could be wrong, so please fact check me on this. It was two Texas schools, one of them being North Texas, who is in his hometown of Denton.
6 miles from his high school.
And then one more G5 school in the Texas area. It might have been Texas State.
Tulane.
UTS.
Tulane.
Okay, Tulane. So once again,
our stats and info gave me that earlier today.
Okay, there we go. So 2 G5 schools, one right down the road, literally, and then one that's in, comparable distance and recruits the state of Texas. Those are the only 2 G5 programs to offer a 5-star Gatorade Player of the Year.
And he probably got those offers when he was a freshman or sophomore in high school. I don't know the dates of the offer. You can go on 24/7 and check them, but I would guess that they were,
well, you don't have to go to 24/7. You're more than welcome to go to On3 now. We're not contractually obligated to promote anybody at this point.
Well, I know how to get to it on 24/7. I haven't navigated On3 enough.
No, that's fine.
I stick to the boards. Ear to the ground.
Ear to the ground. Jackson Arnold wasn't recruited by Hugh Freeze, and apparently that makes him incompetent at the high school level. Here's my argument for it, because I've talked with coaches on how they do this. You're not going to, especially the G5 level, you'll build a relationship with a kid, but you're not going to invest heavy recruiting resources into somebody, let's just call it a spade, is never going to come to your school. Never going to come to your school. Like, you're not going to do that. That's not a logical path to follow if you're a college football coach.
And think about the situation at Liberty, Ralph. I'll let you say it because you said it earlier. Remind the people who Hugh Freeze had at Liberty.
He had Caden Salter. I forgot who.
That's a new pronunciation.
Salter. I mean, the king of just pronunciating.
Look, man, I'm sorry. I remember you trying to read there. I'm trying to pull his offer list. I'm trying to remember who their quarterback was on the roster. But I've been battling microphone issues all day, like all night. It's just
your internet went out earlier today. It's a hard knock life for him.
So Liberty already had good quarterbacks. Everybody knew that Liberty was going to be a stepping stone for Hugh Freeze to get him back into the power ranks. he's not going to waste his time trying to convince a 5-star quarterback, especially from Texas, to come to Liberty. That's just unrealistic.
So I have it pulled up. He had 2 offers from a G5 school on the same day. March 26, 2021. That was Tulsa and North Texas. From that day on, it was all Power 4 schools, or at the time Power 5 schools. And the only other school that was a Power 4 at the time was SMU. And I guess Cincinnati that offered him.
In 2021, so that's later than I thought it was. That would have been his junior year.
Yeah. So September 23rd, 2021, SMU offered. And in Cincinnati, October 15th, 2021. He committed January 24th, 2022.
Yep. And then Hugh Freeze was named the Auburn coach November of 2022. So he wasn't even the coach.
So let's take it a step further there. It would not have made, once again, logical sense for Freeze to try to pivot and flip a 5-star quarterback. The time frame just does not.
He had 2 weeks. He's
just
trying to evaluate his own roster, which he knew.
One official visit
to
that was
Oklahoma.
Oklahoma. Yeah, that was it.
Also,
That was
per friend of the show, and he's been on the show before, Christian Clemente was talking about that was obviously a big time for them. They went to go get Keldrick Falk and Connor Liu. That was who they went and really heavily invested in getting a part of that first recruiting class under Freeze. So, yeah, we don't need to spend a lot of time on that. I just thought it was interesting.
Can we highlight the comment of the night?
Question, Ralph. Ralph, how do you pronounce the name of that kid that went to Eastern Michigan? I think it was Noah something or the other. It's just not what you want
Good
to
answer.
say. Good answer.
Good answer.
Oh,
there he
baby.
is.
There we are.
That is Bryce asking Hugh Freeze a question, by the way.
There we go. Look at that. Look at God, Last
God.
topic of the conversation. Last topic of the conversation.
Auburn basketball's tearing it up in the summer league, by the way.
Will's
I was
run
about to
for
say something
Senate.
else, but
Will's new favorite senator candidate.
I'm gonna run for Senate, so he doesn't.
Okay. There we go.
Not even on the.
If I was going to pronounce anything, we need him to begin to say, "Oh dear God!" Oh, I'm so glad I stopped reading that out loud. Wow.
Hashtag dirty birds.
Okay. Final topic. And honestly, guys, I'm glad we didn't go live last night because we would have really missed this conversation. And one of the teams that I don't think is going to be amazing this year, but I think they'll make a bowl game. But apparently he wants to utilize his 7 to 8 win season to be one of the 30 teams in the playoff. And it's Mr. Elia and his Drinkwitz 30-team playoff idea. Now, I'm going to explain this to you because Brad Crawford of CBS Sports wrote up a piece on it. And this is, this is what it would look like. 4 automatic qualifiers from the SEC, Big Ten, ACC, and Big 12. So your 4 automatic AQs from the Power 4. You'd have 3 SEC play-in games, 3 Big Ten play-in games, 2 ACC play-in games, 2 Big 12 play-in games, 1 at-large from the highest-ranked group of 5, and 1 additional at-large representative. That's the 30. That's the 30-team playoff. Here's the interesting part about it. Both SEC Commissioner Greg Sankey and Tony Petitti of the Big Ten, I don't even know if they would hate this because you would get combined 60% of the total slots in a 30-team playoff. And if the ACC and the Big 12 and you get 5 teams each, well, hello, Brent Key, fire up that 7-5 extension for a lot of people because you might find yourself in the playoff. This is, and Drinkwitz said this, it would create more engaged fan bases in December with teams having a shot to play themselves into a berth. Here was his quote. He said, my math could be wrong here, but what if we did 12, okay? And you had 4 automatic qualifiers. I think everybody thinks that's limiting. It's not limiting if you think about it from where you take those 4 automatic qualifiers from, and then you divide that into 8 opportunities of 8 play-in games. Now you're thinking the SEC is playing in for 8, the Big Ten is playing in for 8. Since we've expanded the bubble to 16, give 3 to the Big 12, 3 to the ACC, 1-1. That was the most confusing quote I've ever read in my life. Now you've got 30 teams. Now you're talking about an opportunity for 30 teams, 30 fan bases to be excited and engaged in giving revenue. You have 30 teams with players who have access to compete for championships. For me, I think that makes a lot more sense. Look, it's fun to talk about this stuff.
He
from a
said all
hypothetical
that?
standpoint.
Oh,
I don't
yeah.
even know what in the world he's talking about because I literally lost train of thought
Did you see
halfway
the
through.
question, Bryce?
Oh yeah,
Okay.
So I think the thought that sums that up is that sounds like an idea from a 7 or 8 win head coach. He's got time to think about that. The coaches that are actually winning and competing for the national championship don't have time to cook up a 30-team playoff. They don't have time. He claims to stand on business. What do you do? You can't be standing on business if you got the time of the day to figure out a 30-team playoff and you're the head coach of an SEC program. You can't be standing on business because you should not have the time. His press conference was just a doozy. All he could talk about, because I watched probably half of it, all he could talk about was how proud he was of everybody. He made some other wild comments. He talked about how it's a privilege and it's a choice. It basically was like, I don't understand why all these other coaches are whining. Was kind of the gist that I got from it. He just didn't want to say it because it wouldn't have sounded good. But like, what are we doing? How do you have time to think of this?
Did you see his tweet 7 hours ago?
What is that? What is it?
On Championship Saturday, each conference will play in games to make the 16-team playoff. Instead of having a selection committees decide who the best teams are, decide on the field, not in the back room with bias.
I mean, I love that. I do love that. But at the same time, like, how does the head coach of an SEC program have the time to come up with this? You're not winning enough games, I think, is how that comes up. And it's not for lack of trying, but it's just like, I mean, he had all the scenarios. He had every berth.
I appreciate that he is backing up his statement. People just quote or tweeting out, what he said. He's backing it up. I respect it.
It's idiotic. It's absolutely stupid. Listen to this. At some point, enough has to be enough. If the top 8 teams in the SEC and the Big Ten are going to make it, then we're talking about a field that would have included Missouri, South Carolina, A&M, Minnesota, Michigan, Iowa, and Illinois last year. In what world does a 5-4 in-conference Minnesota team deserve to play for a national title?
Yeah, nobody wants to watch Minnesota and Iowa in the playoff. Illinois came on strong at the end of the year. Yeah. South Carolina had a really good year. I could see those. But nobody, not a soul, wanted to see Minnesota and Iowa play in a playoff game.
Look, we're going to go to 16 teams, and I get that. If we go to 30, I'll watch it. But, I mean, it's an invitational at that point. It's play a couple games to determine seeding and then see what happens. 30-team playoffs, so Georgia Tech can finally make it in after beating a top 4 opponent. Could happen. Next show idea, me and Bailey show everyone how to tackle without targeting. Dear God.
Can we just get a video of him doing it, please? That's all I need to see.
Still arguing about that.
Yeah, they are.
Years.
I just look. How about he figures out who's going to win the quarterback battle between Sam Horn and Bo Prabula?
Well, he said he's not going to rush it.
So. He said it's a 3-team. He said it's a 3 quarterback race.
Yeah,
but again, this is media days. What do you expect him to say?
Yeah, what do you expect him to say?
You don't expect somebody to say what Hugh Freeze said about the quarterback competition, and he was just like, "Yep, Jackson Arnold's a starter."
Well, Sam Horn was drafted by the Dodgers this week.
Yep. Yeah, and a reporter who I won't name, that was the first question to him was, do you think he'll be back, and what were your conversations with him? He said he called him after he got drafted and said, "Congratulations, I'll see you at 6:30 in the morning for workouts."
I respect it. I love it.
So,
I mean, in all seriousness, a 30-team playoff idea. Dev says you play a shortened regular season. I could see it, but I don't see how you could possibly play all your non-con with the current schedule. You couldn't. It'd have to be, and especially, Dev, because there's going to be an emphasis. I will say this does play in a role, or it places an emphasis on conference games because it matters so much more. So that I do like.
Expanding to 12 has shown this, something that we have been saying. Expanding the playoff is bad for the group of 5 and basically anybody not in the SEC or the Big Ten. Expanding the playoff is bad for everybody.
Apparently Sam Horn's a type one diabetic per Ralph.
Eli did say that.
He goes, you
Matt
probably have to
Dollar
drop
is
2 of
the
your
other
non-conference
quarterback,
games.
by the way.
I think you'd have to play a 10-game schedule, to be honest. 8 or 9
Hey, why don't we
conference
just
games.
there? How many teams are there? 134 now in FBS,
Shout out Delaware.
something like that. Let's have a
Missouri
134 team playoff.
Just wanna
That
play a season.
change. You find out your next opponent on Sunday,
No, let's do it like this.
and then
Bordeaux,
everybody still
the
plays
college
12
football-
games. But once you lose, you're out of the playoff, and you just schedule
Sit it.
somebody.
You just sit at home.
No, the EA College Football 26 YouTuber Bordeaux does the what's it
Imperialism.
called? Imperialism, and he just and he hosts it, and it's a show live every day, and whatever arrow is picked, that's just who you play, and you have 24 hours to play the game, and that's how you do it. Yeah, I can't see this. We're going to expand the playoff. I get idea of money. This is idiotic. I mean, this is just borderline malpractice. Speaking of borderline malpractice, next week the ACC is going to conduct their media days, and their
Why is that
leadership's going to
borderline
speak. Their
malpractice?
leadership's going to speak from the podium, and I can't wait to see what comes out of their mouths. On Monday evening, we're going to be live talking about a topic that is going to be near and dear to a lot of our viewers' hearts. What does the ACC have to accomplish to earn respect nationally? Ralph might say fold altogether. Will might say stop pussyfooting
Hey.
around. I don't know.
Take a knee and don't try to stat pad. It costs you games and costs you a playoff appearance.
Yeah, fair enough.
Looking at you, Mario Cristobal.
No, we'll talk ACC Media Days, and obviously Georgia Tech fans, you'll be tuning in to the Georgia Tech Show next week, and that and more on the Crowded Booth. We appreciate everyone tuning in. Make sure you like the video. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. And if you're listening on those podcast platforms, maybe make sure to give us a thumbs up and leave a review wherever you're finding that, Spotify, Apple Podcast, or anything there in between. Ralph Leary and Will Manis, my name is Bryce Koon. Thanks so much to new sponsor, big time, Bug Spray. Stay safe. Will's going to be putting it on live on the show on Monday night, per sources, to see if he can stay. He's going to go outside into the show so he can stay away from nets.
Fine. I mean, the long-awaited, the highly requested oiling up, but with bug spray.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I think that's a good place to end the show.
Yep, I agree.
We appreciate you. We'll see you next time.
Pile in here and make yourself feel at home. The crowded booth is coming on. The Crowded Booth with Bryce Koon.